Oh, this is not required. Thank you. Thank you. That this is positively required.
Good afternoon, everyone. I, Kunal, on behalf of World Intellectual Foundation, feel honored to welcome our esteemed guest, Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, to the inaugural WIF talk session. Before we begin the discussion, I will ask my colleague Ananya to introduce our esteemed speaker to this distinguished audience.
Good afternoon. Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, recipient of the Param Vishisht Seva Medal, Ati Vishisht Seva Medal, Shaurya Chakra, Sena Medal, Vishisht Seva Medal, was born in Nagpur and spent part of his early education in Karachi before moving to India. He completed his schooling at Air Force Pal Bharti School in Delhi, where he laid the foundation for his discipline and determined nature. He then pursued his undergraduate studies at Sri Ram College of Commerce, University of Delhi, before embarking on his distinguished military career in the Indian Army. He is an alumnus of Officers Training Academy, Chennai. He was commissioned into Fort Command in 1977. In his illustrious career of 39 years, Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni has the distinction of commanding 26 Rashtriya Rifles and 11 Command, a mountain brigade at Dabhang and an infantry division at Likavali. He participated in Operation Polar Bear and Operation Meghdoot as a captain in 1983 and 1984. Operation Meghdoot was the Indian Army operation to seize control of the Siachen Glacier, which is considered as the world's highest battlefield. He has also been posted as the instructor in National Defense Academy, Khadagwasta, and Group Commander of National Cadet Corps. For leading his platoon to unfurl the national flag on Bilakondla, he was decorated with Shaurya Chakra. He commanded a Rashtriya Rifle battalion in the thick of the insurgency and later commanded an infantry battalion, an infantry brigade, and a division along with the line of actual control in Arunachal Pradesh, where he was decorated with the Governor's Gold Medal. He is an alumnus of all the prestigious institutions such as National Institute of Defense Studies, Japan, and of National Defense College, New Delhi. He has a unique distinction of being decorated for duty time and again. He is now the most decorated officer of the Kumam Regiment and retired as Director General Infantry. I welcome you, sir.
Thank you. What she's told me that I need to tell you all. Okay?
Sir,
Today's session could not be more timely as we explore a critical topic, strengthening defense cooperation for a resilient global order. Recent global developments, including the disengagement at the LAC after 4 years of tension following the Galwan Valley clash, and the implications of the ongoing BRICS summit, highlight the importance of effective defense strategies for maintaining peace and stability. Our today's conversation will also examine how recent developments and diplomatic engagements, such as External Affairs Minister Jaishankar's visit to Pakistan, could reshape global dynamics. Our guest today is uniquely qualified to speak on these topics. As said in his introduction, he has played a key role in India's defense initiatives and has vast experience in security operations. We are eager to hear his views on how defense cooperation, both regionally and globally, can contribute to a more resilient world order. Now, without further ado, I will begin the discussion, sir. Sir, before we delve deeper into the operations you led, Could you share an overview of your illustrious 39-year career in the Indian Army? We would love to hear about your key experiences, the discipline ingrained through military service, and how those values continue to guide you even after the retirement.
Oh, thank you. You can hear me? Good. Now first tell me, what is it that you want to know? And what is it that you are all into? So that I can then structure my talk to tell you all about that. What is it that you're keen to know? Forget about what she wants. What is it that, first and foremost, let me tell you, since you're more keen to know what's happening with China and the thing going on at the moment, and my experiences with China and how we intend to be doing it. First and foremost, we must understand the country. What is China all about? Why does it do what it does? And what are the aspirations of that country? Why do they are seen to be not very trustworthy is what general impression followed. Is it true? Is it false? And all that kind of thing. And what is it that led to this change of heart in amongst the Chinese after 4 years of negotiations that they decided to withdraw from areas of East Ladakh, which are more of concern to us. And first and foremost, you must know that China as a country has had about 25 dynasties from the time that we know of. Chinese are very good at recording history, and we are all very bad at recording history. Most of the history that comes to us is somebody telling us, and now you find a lot of good people telling us this is what India is about, this is what the culture is, this is where we are, these are the development that we've done. We are miles ahead of most Western civilization. This is what now our good people, otherwise whatever we saw was the West telling us. The Chinese are known to be recording. So the first of these dynasties, the founder of that is Xi. And now we have the 25th, it is not a dynasty, but it's a communist empire which came up in 1912. They started their movement, and in 1949 they had taken possession of what now is called the People's Republic of China, the PRC. Now before that, they have a Qing's empire and the Qing dynasty. And the Qing dynasty continues from about 1648 till about 1912. And that is where you have this Kuomintang regime, which subsequently, because of the People's Revolutionary Movement started by Mao Zedong, that you find that they moved to a place called what we call today is Taiwan. Why Chinese always insist on saying that Taiwan is ours is basically because it is this empire of the Qing dynasty, of which the Kuomintang, and initially Mao Zedong is also part of the Kuomintang regime, because wanting to throw out the Qing empire. And the Qing empire is supposed to be Manchurian. And the one empire before that is supposed to be Han. And then before that is Mongolian with a Han mix. So this is quite of a Qing dynasty, which subsequently in 1912, because of this people's movement, which started off under Mao Zedong, and by 1949 they took possession of China. In that context, we see that there are two big things, and we've had no rift with China. We've not seen any of these old Indian kings, empires, or even the Sikh dynasty of Ranjit Singh, or even the subsequent dynasty subsequent of Maharaja of Kashmir, and then it is Ghulam Singh continuing till Hari Singh. Any dispute with China, because the Chinese held on the northern part of the Himalayas, we were on the southern part of the Himalayas, and therefore it was all, everybody was fine. They were looking after them, we were looking after us. Then what is it that transpired is 1949. That's where the real thing starts. Because 1949, the British all along thought that the Chinese were a weak empire, and the Chinese were ideally suited to be a hedge or a buffer between the Russians and the British Empire. So to see to it that they are a buffer between the Russian and the British Empire, the Chinese were encouraged to be in areas which the British thought would be taken over by the Russians. And in that context comes the Xinjiang. Xinjiang is new province. So you have Xinjiang, where you have from Xinjiang the pass that comes from there called the Khunjera Pass. And that Khunjera Pass is the one that takes you to Gilgit-Baltistan and takes you to a place called Wada. So you have the China-Pakistan economic corridor being constructed by Chinese from the Xinjiang province along the Khunjera Pass and goes via Gilgit-Baltistan and goes to Wada. Now the Chinese took this and the British thought that they would push the Chinese so that they would not want to spend too much of money and too much of an extensive empire, so that China could either up or they will take care of the Russians. The Russians, when all this was going on, there starts the First World War. When the First World War starts in 1914, we have the British signs a treaty with China in 1914, and that's where you have the McMahon Act. So 1914 was the McMahon Act. Now when all this is being discussed and decided with the British Empire does it with the Chinese. The Chinese have the signature, but it is not ratified by the Chinese dynasty, because the year that I said was 1914. Now you realize why I said this. 1912, the Qing Empire is good. The Mao Zedong is still to rise, and they're in a way a process of getting it. So they are not in the as yet in grip of China. And since they are not in grip of China, so the 1914 treaty stays ratified and stays as it is. But we follow what is called the McMahon Act, which is with Myanmar also and with us also. The Chinese accept Myanmar but don't accept it. So in 1914, the First World War starts and it ends, and then you find the Chinese have no time because the British Empire is growing. The British Empire also lost a bit of its sheen after having spent a lot of money in the First World War. And then this particular treaty stays in the cold storage for some time, and Chinese also don't do much. Here you have Lord Curzon in India who's dealing it, and whenever the Chinese do something, he knows where to twist and turn, and therefore the Chinese continue to remain virtually as I would say, but subservient, scared of the British Empire. Till 1904, when we have what they call the Boxers' Rebellion, in which the Chinese are supposed to be on the back foot, and the Chinese are thrown on the back foot. Then starts the Second World War. So you have the Chinese Empire participating in the Second World War as part of the Allied. They are not with the Axis, they are with the Allied. They are with the Americans, they are with the British, and they are fighting the Second World War. So, having done that, meanwhile, Mao Zedong, Zhou Enlai, all these people are just busy trying to spread into China and throw away this dynasty. But the Indian relationship of ours, the ones Congress, were excellently connected with the Chinese Empire, and the Chinese Empire could, Gopniski, Vilkatha, we talked about, and Dr. went there treating all these people. So it was very good relationship that continued with the Chinese. So once the Second World War started, obviously the British Empire lost the money. They were willing to give independent. The Chinese, they became the thing. And who were there in China at this point of time? The Japanese. So the Japanese ruled the Chinese in the center part of it. The Japanese also lost the Second World War. So the Japanese pulled back. So the Chinese whole empire moved to Taiwan. And now you find the Taiwanese are there, the whole Chinese empire is there. Here Mao Zedong has taken complete charge of China. By 1949, they are in complete grip of it and start. The first thing that they do is take Tibet. And the next thing they do is take Xinjiang. So Tibet and Xinjiang are supposedly, Tibet also had their passport, Tibet also had their currency. So from that point of view, if you look at any country being independent, they had both these ingredients in them. So having a passport, having their currency, so Tibet. And Tibet had Dalai Lama, who was the 14th Dalai Lama, 30 years old, was the present Dalai Lama. He was a youngster who then came to India at that point of time. So this kind of a situation that prevailed at that point of time, they found that the Chinese thought that they must have full control over the Tibetan part and the Xinjiang. Now, for Xinjiang, the road to it was the Aksai chain. The Aksai chain is the road that goes. Now, we in India at this point of time have the British wanting the lease of Gilgit. And this lease of Gilgit, which the British wanted it from Maharaja Hari Singh, so that they could be as close as they could be to the Russians and not let the Russians come this side. And so they thought that this empire would be a kind of a power. Why I am telling you all this is that we realize that with China, we have not had any problems. The problems have started now, after 1950. Once 1949, the Chinese took charge, and then the Chinese decided that they must create an Aksai chain and then go along. Meanwhile, the Britishers had what they call the Johnson Agra line, they had the McDonald-McCartney line, which they kept on as McMahon, I said, is 1914. McMahon line is with Arunachal Pradesh. It has nothing to do with East Nepal. It is Arunachal Pradesh. So that was one. But with this, they had the Chushu Treaty, which they never had any problem. Then we had the Treaty of Amritsar, again, no problem, 1916 with the British. And the Maharaja Hari Singh, Ranjit Singh, all these, not Hari Singh, Gulab Singh at that point of time. So this thing was going on. Now when the British left, they handed over Gilgit-Baltistan to India. But in such a manner, because they wanted it in 1937, and before that, the lease of the Gilgit-Baltistan. But Maharaja Hari Singh didn't give them the lease. And therefore, the British took the lease in 1937, but created problems for the Maharaja. And the Maharaja could control that, and the Britishers thinking that the Maharaja was not sort of listening to them or whatever be, so they had their own military. Started off a small little problem for him by Mr. Abdul Qadir, and then the first problem in Kashmir starts. In 1937, the problem of Kashmir starts with Maharaja Hari Singh, continues, and then now that's a subsequent story which we can tell later. But after 1950, when the Chinese decided that they would take the Xinjiang is new province. So a new province, they joined China. Now that province is about 1.6 million square kilometers. 1.6 million square kilometers with a population of over 25 million. They are not Chinese. They are East Turkestan. They belong to Turks. That would be this thing. They now speak a different language, but that's the thing, which is closer to the Kar being the Central Asian republics of Russia. So they are all closer. That is why the Xinjiang province. And adjoining it is Tibet, which is about 1.2 million square kilometers with a population of about 3 million. And similarly, you find that the Chinese, the Tibetan autonomous region is also truncated to like. But overall, the kind of Chinese decided that they must keep a vigil in this area. So in the Tibetan region, Tibetan total, there are about 6 million Tibetans in Tibet land, with about 7.5 million Hans. Hans are 92% or 93% of the population of China, which speak one language, and they all speak Mandarin. So they speak the Chinese language. The Chinese language also for us, we have 26 alphabets, A, B, C, D till Z, and that comprises English, and we all speak English from the 26. The Chinese have 50,000 characters. 50,000 characters. So you can imagine, a Chinese man or a woman or a child has 50,000 characters in mind before he starts reading what it is. So a small stroke can make the world of a difference. Like when Mr. Obama was to visit, and they said, "Welcome, Obama." And everybody thought that it was "Welcome, Obama," but it was "Welcome, Obama." And the word "U" and the word "O" has a lot of difference. For us, it's a pronoun. So Sanjay can be said Sanjaya, Sanji, Sanjay, that's a pronoun. So you can say what you want to say. But it makes a lot of difference. The Americans realized it in first manner, welcome Obama. Obama means the leader of the blacks. So you see how subtle they are in their description and saying so. So welcome Obama. So when you want to say Obama means the Americans are equally good at clever research. He's not Obama, he's Obama. This is his name. You can't associate him and make it being called the leader of the black. So but they're so subtle and clever. So Chinese are their own, there is like 50,000 characters, one stroke either a stroke, the meanings can change. Like that. So Chinese contributed in 50, they took whatever we did not have, we had a post on Salilullah fort, where most of the time that none of us went there for a very, very long time. So when the Chinese were keen, so by about 56, the Chinese invited us to come for the inauguration of the road of Aksai Chin. That was probably the first time we realized there was something we knew, like, but since we had also just got independence in 1947, we did that kind of a thing. And our army also was truncated because in Second World War, the Indian army was about over 80 lakhs. We have to wait about there. And we maybe, but then in Second World War, we had 20 lakhs. And that second 20 lakhs was not because the British wanted to have Indians fighting for them all over the world. And after 1945, when the Second World War was over, and then by 1947, when India was independent, we were about 4 lakhs. So we had gone down to 4 lakhs. Out of the 4 lakhs, 1.5 lakhs went to Pakistan, and the rest of them were Indian. All Muslims who ever wanted went to Pakistan. And the British, the Indian army, they were 30% to 35% Muslims, the balance were the Sikhs, about 10 to 12%, and Baku. So there is a sizable chunk of the army that went. So why this problem that certainly brought up in Eastern Ladakh and in Arunachal, why that war started, but then today, having a brief background into what it's all about. See, Eastern Ladakh, because of the Aksai Chin, the land, and as I said, there were 2 lines the British followed. One was the Johnson line, and the Johnson line went along what they called the Kunlun Mountains. And since there's a pass called Karakoram Pass like this, and from that pass you can see the Karakoram Highway, not the Karakoram Highway, the Karakoram Pass, you run the Karakoram Range, and it comes quite close to the Kailash range and goes to Mansarovar. Right? And then there's another range like this which is known as the Kunlun Mountains. So between the Kunlun Mountains and the Karakoram range is the Aksai Chin. So the British drew this particular line. So part of it, Aksai Chin went to India because the line was running along the Kunlun Mountains. Then came the McCarthy MacDonald who divided the line and said, no, the line goes along the Karakoram ranges with part Aksai Chin came to India and part Aksai Chin went to China. So since as yet there was nothing between India and China from there, so till date we have no boundary as such which is there. So we call it the LAC. Okay, this is the line of action of control. And the issue that has cropped up now in Eastern Ladakh is the various patrol points we have. These patrol points are able to ensure that the 2 sides don't clash with each other. And supposing it is one petrol point, second petrol point, third, then it is not that it is drawn, but everybody knows we make what we call Burji. Burji means one stone over the other pile. छोटा सा बना दिया, Burji बन गया, तो we know that ये पत्थर है, इसके पत्थर की तरफ हमें पत्थर की तरफ हुआ है. So there's a little line drawn like that. The petrol PP point. So we have PP point 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, like that. 74 odd petroleum point. Everybody knows on ground. But what happened in 2020 was that along the Yangshu Lake, along the Belwan, along Gogra, along Pot Lake, there are various petrol points that are there. So that dispute cropped up. There was a little talk going on. But then, irrespective of the talk, there are various agreements between China and India, starting from 1993, called the Peace and Tranquility, 2013, called the Border Management. So all these agreements are there, primarily to prevent the 2 armies from firing at each other. And after 62, the first firing that took place between India and China was 1967 in Sikkim. And that is where they got a bloody nose in 1967. But we generally don't talk much about that. But we do feel so that in 62 we got a bloody nose. So there is no doubt about that. And therefore, that 62, that little bit of embarrassment hasn't gone out of us as yet. 67 is that they were embarrassed very badly. But notwithstanding that, but after that, and after there were no this thing, then Mr. Rajiv Gandhi, when he was the Prime Minister, he visited China, and Deng Xiaoping was very, very affectionate with him, because he thought that he was the grandson of Nehru, and that he ought to be taken care of. And then, since he was not in power, when Mr. Narasimha Rao came in power, the first agreement of 1993 came up, which is called the Peace and Tranquility. And definitely, even till Galwan, where we lost 20 and Chinese lost more, but there was not a shot fired. So all these people that we lost, not one bullet fired because of the agreements that are there. So if they were fist fights, they were pushing, they may be pushing each other, fist fighting each other, hold collars of each other, that's all. But that also was not happening till what happened in 2002. Because I had been dealing with them, I've been going on patrolling, I've been meeting with people. So whenever there used to be any problem, so we call it a banner drill. A banner drill means we pick up a banner, and the moment you see a Chinese, which is written in Chinese that you are entering Indian area, and please stay away. And similarly in English also it is written up that you are entering Indian area, please stay away. So they read that, they stop. If they see us, they put up a banner, we stop. So there are very nice peace arrangements that exist, and therefore now when you hear or what you ask as to what is now likely to change with the new arrangement which has been announced, of which I understand our Prime Minister will be meeting Xi Jinping today, should be meeting or maybe a little later now, about 5 o'clock or so, we'll be meeting Xi Jinping on at the BRICS in a bilateral meet in which this will come up. Because this definitely is an excellent, very good move. Good move because it is a positive development. After all, like what Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee always said, that you can't change neighbors. You can change your friends, like that, but you can't change neighbors. So Pakistan, China, but that we have problems with, but they are our neighbors. So our endeavor is always to have good relations with our neighbors, because it is generally seen that if you have good relations with your neighbors and everything good happens, the GDP rises by 1%. 1% GDP rise now. If you have good relations with China, you have 1% GDP rise. If you have good relations with Pakistan, another 1%. So if we are saying that we will be growing at 7.5%, we would definitely, if you have good relations with your neighbors, you can say you will rise at about 10%. So that's a big jump. And when any country grows, especially ours, at 10% GDP growth, you have 10 billion people left from poverty. So below poverty line, 10 billion people get lifted. So like China grew for 30 long years at 10%, between 10 and 11%. China also had almost about 500 million people below poverty line. And every year they grew at 10%. So in 10 years, they lifted 300 million people above the poverty line. And therefore, you find that taking it from 77, that the real growth rate of China started, by now they have lifted all the people from poverty. So today when we say that India has about say 300 million people below poverty line, then we need, and if we grow at 10%, if we would take 30 years to lift these 300 million people below poverty line. And that is if we grow at 10%. We have accepted that we are growing at 7.5%. IMF says we are growing at 6.5%. So whatever that is. That means we are not able to lift 10 million above the poverty line because the growth rate is not 10%. But we have lifted 100 million people above the poverty line because we have been able to grow at 6.5%, 7%, 8%. So we just see people. So we have lifted people above. Now the poverty line also has its own definitions because we have what we call as the PPP, purchase power parity. And the purchase power parity and the normal that we have, the dollar, is It's about $2.2 below anybody earning less than $2.2 per day is supposed to be poor. We don't reach that $2.2 because the dollar is 80 rupees. 80 plus 80, 160 plus 200. So about 200, 225 rupees per day. Ours is a Tendulkar committee and this and all that, which is just about 37 rupees or something. You know. But notwithstanding that, and since the government gives food to so many millions of people, about over 300 or 400 million people are being given food, so that's where the major chunk goes. Most of the government gives pocket ka bijli, pocket ka pani, pocket ka ye. It's pocket because of these poor people have zero. So something has to be done for them. You can't just leave them high and dry. So therefore, all this now to have good relations with China. It's important that we must sort out the AAC has to be sorted out for a very simple reason. That the Foreign Minister has always been insisting that until and unless the peace and tranquility prevails along the AAC, there is no question of having good relations with China. So this is the first step that has now happened. After 4 years of hard negotiation, we've had what we call it the WMCC, the Working Mechanism for Coordination of our Border thing. We've had 31 meetings, but ever since 2020, the one is taking place, we had about 19 of these meetings only dealing with borders. We've had 21 meetings at the Corps Commander level. One is on our side, that Chushu, and the other side is their side is on the other side. On their Boldo, they call it Boldo garrison. So Boldo garrison में एक होता है और एक अपनी. So we have good, nice pleasantries exchange. ऐसे जैसे आप ये टेबल है, एक तरफ इंडिया बैठे हैं, एक तरफ चाइना बैठे हैं, बीच में delegation leader, उधर delegation leader, and there will be an interpreter there on that side. Everything is videoed. A video camera or everything will be videoed. And generally, decisions are not taken because all of what is spoken about is recorded, is videoed, and then sent to the higher headquarters who are supposed to take decision or whatever they are. The general discussions that take place whenever we meet and whenever we used to meet them in my time, you know, अपना याक चला गया उधर, some people have gone across, और हमारा याक वापस कर दो, आपका आदमी इधर आ गया, उधर आ गया, ऐसे छोटा मोटा, और उसके बाद खाओ पियो, कांपाय, बोलो कांपाय with cheers. Jack is a very fond of having wine. After they finish discussion, they must have wine. So you have kampaya. So relations were very good. Everything was happening very nice. And we have 4 structured border personnel meetings. 26 January we have performance, day right of the October day, May day, everything. So it is structured meeting and आपस में भी suppose they man by mistake has come to say, our man grazier and all. Because there is no fencing, it's all open. So you पता नहीं चलता उस पहाड़ों में किधर कौन चला गया, किसकी गाय किधर चलेगी, किसकी बकरी किधर चलेगी, कुछ पता नहीं. So गलती हो जाती है. So for that kind of plus if there is anything to be conveyed, exchange, we talk. So this used to be a normal meeting. So they had 21 rounds of Corps commanders talk after 2020 to settle this. To begin with, till about September of 2021, 2022, Pegamso was one, and which was again when we occupied the Kailash range, and the Kailash range has the famous battle of 1962 called Razangla. And the Razangla battle, in which Shaitan Singh or the Maratha battle is on this particular range, where this Kailash range goes. And the Razangla feature is. And so we found that once to occupy certain heights, the Chinese attempting to come from this thing, when you say like this, you'll say, you know, figure 8, figure 7, figure 6, figure 5, figure 4. So like this, the figures emanating from only which is on joining the Pengangso Lake. Now Pengangso Lake, 2/3 of this lake is in China. 1/3 of the lake is in China. So, and it's a water body. It's a huge water body of salt, totally salt. This thing is not for drinking purposes. There are no fishes, nothing absolutely, but it's very deep and freezes during the, despite the salt, it freezes in winter, and you can actually do skiing on it. It is that good. It becomes a nice playground. So, when you say finger 8 on the pengham, so it is towards Chinese side. So you can say finger 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it is like this only finger. Just rest this. So when these fingers are emanating from the ridge line, over there, when finger 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. So they would come till finger 4 and we would go up to finger 8. And this is where, and this is a road like this goes along that ridge, right? Okay, which is this lake, water body, huge water body, absolutely. As I said, 160 kilometers in length, and 2/3, 1/3, and all that kind of. Very wide. We have boats, we have over there, to patrol that entire thing. So they would let us come, we would let them come, so that we get started in 2020 with the broad took place, the fight took place, and everything that whatever you also on the television and everything actually happened. Now after the Galwan incident of June 2020, the petroleum points that we talk about, so we had resolution of petrol point 14, 15, 17 alpha, that is Galwan, Hot Spring, Gogra, and also that is the disengagement that took place, that they went beyond figure 8 and we came beyond figure 4. So we have our camp on our side and they have the camp, and the enters the portion in the middle is the buffer. So nobody goes, we don't go, they go. But we can see all of it, because on the other side of the lake are our posts, so we can see everything what whoever comes on that particular road. So there is that. On the Kailash range also, certain areas have become buffer, they don't come, we don't go, so there is no confrontation between the two armies. There are PLA, that is the People's Liberation Army, and of course our Indian Army. So to avoid that. At Gogra also, at Hot Spring also, at Galwan. At Hot Spring, as to what you must have just heard yesterday, or day before yesterday, the Police Day was celebrated. National Police Day celebration. Because it was in that year, in the year of 1950, when Hot Spring, that incident took place and the Chinese killed policemen. And now they call the CRPF. And then that day is celebrated today as the National Police Day in India. So having said that, now this particular agreement which has hopefully which has got signed, with a lot of hard bargaining, with we sticking on to our principles. We did not give it thought, and the Chinese realized that well, Indians also have a point of view today, and for whatever the reason that the Chinese may have had, but 4 consecutive years in those heights, winter is now setting in. It's already October. We had that thing also coming on the 20th of October. The 20th of October 1962 is the time the war also started. So this particular agreement also between the two countries has come on the same day as the 20th of October 2024. So hopefully we feel that the Chinese will stick to their commitment. We will stick to our commitment. And then once the petrol point where the major issue comes up, and there are two places called Depsang and Depchok. These are the two names which you may be hearing of on Depchok and Depsang. Now, Depsang is a plain area, though it's this particular area has a normal heights of between 10 and 11,000, goes up to 18,000, and the plains are at 14,000. The terrain on our side is very different. The terrain on their side is a plateau. It's called Tibetan plateau. The plateau means flat. Similarly, Depsang is flat piece of ground. So where you can have vehicles move up and down. So the patrolling being permitted now is petrol point 10, 11, 12, 13. So these are the petrol points which the Chinese were not letting us patrol here. because if the relations are bad, each one of them, whatever they want to do. Not that it made any difference. So all these talks that were there, that India lost so much of territory, the Chinese gained so much of, it was not lost or gained. It's a question of that little bit of, you can say, perception, one. And second, you can say a bit of dadagiri. Nahi aane do, kya kar lena, that's it. And then you don't want to imagine fights, there's fights or there. You see, but you can see everything, plain. So you go on a particular height, you can see everything. It's an absolute flat piece of ground. So that is as regards the Lepsan plains are concerned. As regards the Demchok is concerned, Demchok is another area which is closer to Mansarovar. So when you go on heights of the thing, you can see Mansarovar. So that is this thing. And hopefully there's a hot water spring, like even Avi Leka. So very good hot water spring at Demchok. Now though they will be on the other side, and you'll be surprised like this. You know, just two of us are there. The water, dono garam pani le rahe, wo bhi le rahe. I say, it's only that we don't understand each other's language. We can't talk. They can't talk in Hindi and English. They talk in Chinese. But it's like this. मगर धक्का देना तो उसको धक्का दे, उसको धक्का देना तो देखो धक्का दे, वो गर्म पानी से ना. So that is the closeness of the areas that some places. So, but then hopefully with this kind of agreement, tension will go down. Because when you are serving them, it's not easy. Easy because you are at the heights of 20,000, 18,000, very sub-zero temperatures go down to minus 35 degrees. It's very cold. It's Jatrupa because it is very hot. And when it is not sunny, it is very, very cold. And winds will be blowing, sometimes it's snowing, it's terrible. So you find that at least when it is snowing, you will be surprised. If you extend your hand, probably you may not be able to see the last bit of it. And so if somebody comes, you can't say it is like that because it's so close. So snowfall is very bad. Total whiteout condition. You can't see anything. So it's been difficult. And if there is no tension, and even if you do confront it, you will say, yeah. And I remember so many times the Chinese would come, and if I had a packet of glucose in my pocket or maybe toffee, they would take it out and give it to him. He would look at it and eat it. If he had something to offer me, he would eat it. So that friendliness, that माहौल जो एक अच्छा माहौल होना चाहिए, उम्मीद करते हैं कि after this agreement which the Chinese and the Indians have accepted to sign, and we are looking forward that the Prime Minister does have a good word with Xi Jinping. The tension will ease, it will lead to good relation. And going back to what they call the status quo ante, April 2020, that is what the basic thing. To say that status quo ante 2020 is the first step. We'll go back. As I said, I am used to the status quo ante 2020. I spent 40 years in the army, and having spent 40 years and dealing with on the LAC or the LOC, especially the LAC with the Chinese, good relations. I never had any problem. And every time you talk, discuss, and do compare, I hope those good old days with China return, because it will be a win-win situation for both the countries. And that is what I see the positive side of our government's great effort at wanting to ease tension between the two armies. Not easy, it's not easy to live there. And then, even if we continue to be there, whatever that is, so at least even if you meet each other, there won't be any tutu manner. Yeah, anything you want to ask.
So sir, essentially there is no physical alteration in the status quo. Whatever it is just perception based. Allegedly termed as salami slicing strategy deployed by the China.
When we say this entire area is ours. They have captured almost 38,000 square kilometers. That entire feature of so all this is in our area, it is not their area. But by perception it is their area. When the British left, they left everything in what do we do? Whether we follow the Johnson Agra line, we follow the McDonald Mekatne line. Now Chinese say we follow the Mekatne line. We say we follow the Johnson line because Johnson line is before the Mekatne line is later. So the British actually left us in a kind of a situation in which we have not been able to negotiate. Had it been a border, suppose like the Ratcliffe line came, when the British left, and again the Ratcliffe line came after independence. It didn't come before independence. It came after independence. It led to what? 10 million people. So found Hindus running to Pakistan and all those coming here. Had it been earlier, had they been lying and drawn, they would not have been such a maddening rush of refugees going that side, millions and dying. I don't know how many millions died also. So that kind of a situation. So there is no regular border as such. That is the thing. Yeah. And what was the other question of yours? In that, Ajay, you have your okay.
So, sir, summing up the world's highest battlefield is Siachen is often described as a grueling experience, both physically and mentally. So, Operation Meghdoot is regarded as one of the most challenging military operations in the world. So, can you just share your experience leading your platoon to unfurl the national flag at Villa Fonda and challenges you faced while operating in such extreme conditions?
I have to listen to you with total care and intent. I'm she's sitting to my right. I can't hear her at all. If she is my, abuse me also, I won't hear her. Kind courtesy, Siachen. I have a deep cut. See this cut goes from here like this, and I have no hearing on my ear. So that is why I have to listen to you very intently. What are you saying? Left ear, unless I hear something else totally. And here she can abuse me. No? I don't hear at all whatever I hear. So, but then with Siachen, it's again different story. Because what I told you was about China, Tibet, and everything. With Pakistan, we had the Karachi Agreement in 1949. And, you all know that in 1947, India got independence on the 15th of August 1947. And because 15th August was not considered to be a very auspicious day, we had independence at midnight, on the stroke of the midnight hour. That's what the Prime Minister's speech is. And that came primarily because it was considered that 15th of August is not an auspicious day. But Mountbatten had taken the surrender of the Japanese on the 15th of August 1945. So when he was sent, he was told, and since he was related to the Queen, and he said that I would rather give independence to India on 15th of August 1947. Otherwise, the independence was coming much later in June of 1948. So he said, so 15th of August. And therefore, since Mountbatten was the head, and he became the Governor General, the first Governor General of India. But then he had to also go to Pakistan. So he went on the 14th of August to Pakistan, held a meeting, and then came back to India, and then they had the speech on the 15th of August, 14, 15, and 15th August 1947. We could not unfurl the flag at Edinburgh because of Allah. So the unfurling of the flag was done on the 16th of August 1947 at 10 o'clock at Edinburgh. But 15th August, we did it on top of the Parliament, and we did it where the National War Memorial stands today, in that green area where the national flag was unfurled. But 15th of August 1947, since Maharaja Hari Singh did not sign the instrument of accession. So that instrument of accession was signed on the 26th of October 1947. And then 27th of October 1947, India entered Kashmir to save Kashmir, and if we did save whatever we have today, is all the efforts of the Indian Army then. Between 26th of August 27th of October 1947 and 31st of December of 1948, the war between Pakistan and the Razakars carried on. We had the Karachi Agreement, which led to a ceasefire, And that ceasefire demarcated a point called NJ9842. That means the entire ceasefire line that the two armies did ended, demarcated at a point called NJ9842, and it said then not to the glaciers. So that was it. Which still exists from the Karachi. Pakistan, over a period of time, because it was a very, very inhospitable area, very difficult. Because temperatures will be minus 50, 60 degrees, winds at 100, 150 kilometers an hour. Very difficult, all ice and snow and rocks and nothing else over there. So everybody thought nobody goes on the island. So it ended at a point called NJ and N4. America, over a period of time, because not, I can't say because Pakistan was part of CENTO or CISO or whatever that was, but the American maps by a person called Mr. Hudson, by their map agency, connected NJ9842 to Karakoram Pass. Now the Karakoram Pass is so important, again when we are talking about Chinese Karakoram Pass, then we are talking about Pakistan and this NJ9842 Karakoram Pass. So he joined the straight line from NJ9842 to Karakoram Pass. When that straight line was joined, which we came to know much later through National Geographic magazines and mine journals, because Pakistan would sponsor expeditions because the world's second highest peak called the K2 is there, adjoining the Siachen Glacier. The world's second highest peak, K2. And besides K2, it has numerous peaks, almost about I think 12 or 15 of them, which are over 24,000 feet height. So this continued till the Pakistanis kept allowing people to come there. Finally, when Hudson joined this line, Colonel N. Kumar, the mountaineer from India, who was the commandant of the High Altitude Warfare School, was given permission by Sheikh Abdullah and the rest of them to do what is called the Indus water rafting expedition. Where the Indus River starts and ends over a little beyond maybe Pakistan and ahead of Skardu. So we did the Indus water rafting expedition in 1975. When he did that in 1975, those two Germans with whom we had done, the same two Germans came again in 1978 and requested him that he join them for the Shok water rafting expedition. Now the Shok is the river which, again back to telling you the same thing, is the river which comes from Galwan and joins Shok, and we have that road DBO, Shok and Darn. That road that we were constructing, the Chinese are very worried about. So this particular thing, so when he saw the map, he saw that there was a straight line drawn like this from Karakoram to Karakoram Park, and he saw the Siachen Glacier as being shown as part of Pakistan. So when he saw that, he said, he just said, okay, there was a ceasefire agreement and the line says NJ9842, and in mountains there can't be a straight line, it has to go along the peaks, or what they call it the watershed. Watershed was not followed. So he told those two German mountaineers, can you give me the map? So they negotiated and he said, he gave 500 rupees to the German mountaineer, and he took that map. He took that map and he came to the army headquarters, and he told the army headquarters. General Raina was the chief of the army staff. General Raina and Colonel Kumar are from the same regiment, Kumar regiment. And General Raina is the Mahavir Chakra winner of the 1962 war, under whom the Battle of Razangla was fought in Chushul. So he was the chief of the army staff. He went and told him, sir, ये तो पाकिस्तानी सब जगह घुसे हुए हैं ऐसे इससे अच्छा go to the DGMO. So the DGMO he went to General Chekhov. He said, ऐसे so what do you want me to do? So he told him, Colonel Kumar requested him, I should take some mountaineers in that area. So he took some mountaineers in that area. So that was 1978, 79, 80, 81. Colonel Kumar retired in 1981. So 1982 came the time to set the patrol, so Ladakh Scout. And incidentally, I was a young officer. We were there in Dehradun at those parts of time. From Dehradun we were sent to a place called Turtu. took is in Gilgit Baltistan, and that is where the battalion was supposed to go. So we went over there, and since 82 I was there, I saw this happening, and done the course at that one. So in 83, I went as part of the Polar Bear, and 84 and 83 में Musharraf, who was elected in Kargil, he was involved in seeing what is going on over here. And the Pakistan, when we moved into Siachen in 83 and de-inducted from Siachen, the Pakistanis came on top of Siachen. And when they came on top of Siachen, they could not sustain themselves. And they found it almost dying. So unke corps commander could not वापस आ गए. So they all went back. And when they went back, then they decided that they will come again next year, 1984. And this is written by Musharraf in his book, In the Line of Fire. His motto, he writes In the Line of Fire, that they pulled back in 84, we have to come. And meanwhile, they sent their team to Europe to buy the high altitude mountaineering equipment, which is generally owned by people for climbing and Mount Everest. If you climb Mount Everest, you require that tough clothing to survive. So they went and did it. We were doing it at ourselves. So since I had gone there in 83, so the army commander then told me that look, in 84 also we have to go, and will you go? I said, yeah, I don't mind going. But he says, what about the equipment? I said, in 83 we have used the Indian equipment, we'll use the Indian equipment. So there was another general called Moon, the corps commander. He said, सब गड़बड़ हो जाएगी, they will not be able to do it. So we'll go and buy for it. So meanwhile they told the Prime Minister, Mrs. Gandhi, that this is what they are doing. So Mrs. Gandhi told them, Shiva, कुछ भी करो, लड़ाई नहीं होगी. बाकी सब जो करना है आप करो, no problem, because आपकी ज़मीन है, हमारी ज़मीन है, हमारे को कोई ऐतराज़ नहीं. But see to it that they don't go on. Because in 1984 we had 2-3 incidents that happened. One was the Blue Star, which happened in 1984 around the same time. Then we had squad leader Rakesh Sharma, who asked Mr. Gandhi asked him, कैसे दिखता है हिंदुस्तान इसे सारे जहाँ से अच्छा. So all these things were happening in 84 around the same time. World Cup also. Around the same time we had won. So a lot of things were happening. So Mr. Gandhi said, do whatever you have to do, but there should be no war. More than So when General Moon went abroad to buy the equipment, उधर पता चला कि सारा equipment एक country उठा के ले गई. That is the first hint that we got कि कुछ गड़बड़ हो. So पूछा मैं क्यों, which is this country? So then one of them said the Pakistanis had come and they have bought all the winter clothing from Europe. So there's nothing on it. Because Mount Everest कितने लोग क्लाइंब करते हैं एक साल? 50-25. So, but they have picked up 300 sets. Now this they did it in December of 1983. Now, moment Moon went there in January of 1984, he was told the people. Now when he got back, he said then the orders were placed for us and they delivered. You'd be surprised. They equipment to us on the 12th of April 1984 at 5 o'clock in the evening. And on the 13th of April 1984 at 5 o'clock in the morning, we launched our operations. And we launched our operations wanting to occupy the heights of Soltoro ridge line. There's a ridge line called Soltoro, and there's a ridge line called Karakoram. So between the Karakoram and the Soltoro, there's this Siachen Glacier, which is 76 kilometers long. The world's second longest glacier, with about 2 to 5 kilometers wide. Terraces, avalanches, all. And we were to duck there in helicopters. So we were to drop by helicopter at those heights of 90,000 feet. So since हम लोग गए थे 83, I was in the first helicopter, which was to each helicopter would have 2 people, pilot, co-pilot, and 2 people sitting. And I had a radio operator. So when we reached a place called Bella, we read the word Bella.
Yeah.
So Bella Fonda, La means pass. And when you say Soltoro Kanuli, Sia Kanuli, so Kanuli means the snow-covered peak. Like that. So we decided that the pilot, we had done the recce on the 11th of April. We were told कि बोलना नहीं रेडियो सेट के ऊपर, चुप सारे के सारे, बिकॉज अगर आप बोलोगे तो पाकिस्तान को पता चल जाएगा, बिकॉज अगर आप मोबाइल पे बात करते हो तो everybody can pick up. So we, those days there were no more radio sets, so it's all radio frequencies, all in air, so they'll catch. So we were told to 5 दिन बोलने को, so we said 5 days, no problem. But we were all self-contained. So first helicopter, and when we reached Belafonte, the pilot said, we can't land. क्या हो गया? कहता है, you know, a crevice is something like what you see, ऐसे खुला है, तो ये बंद है. No, when it is in the morning, everything is covered. हल्की बर्फ, it's April, and all the year round, the last about 2-3 years, we go on Siachen in the month of July. July, August, September are clear months. In the sense, you can do 90 days maximum, man can stay there. But this time we went in April. The Pakistanis had planned it on 1st of May. Now we didn't know this. This is only because Musharraf has written in his book that this is what happened, this is what happened. Jandar Khan said this, Jan Khan said this, he said this, and then we wanted to go in the month of March, but then because equipment hadn't come and last year they were about to die, so we postponed it to May. All that is not a priority. And that is why then we launched Kargil in 1999 after seeing. So when we approached Belafonte, the pilot told me, sorry, I can't land it. I said, क्या हो गया? पता नहीं चल रहा है कि crevice means the helicopter comes like this, अगर नीचे खुला है, plane है नीचे, supposing दरी के मापे थे, और वो उसने land किया तो अंदर ही चला जाएगा. So he is very scared. He doesn't want to take any risk. Because I have seen with my own eyes entire helicopter going inside with pilots. Because when the helicopters are landing like this, it throws dust, and dust is, oh, there is only snow. So when it snows white, तो pilot को सामने नजर नहीं आता है. So कुछ भी नजर नहीं, it's all white out. So he's generally doing on an, you know, what we term as a little bit of taking a risk. He lands, धीरे, he finds it is hard, it's okay, he's going to take off immediately. So he said, we'll not take that risk in the morning, you jump. Then you can jump, there's no problem. I पहले jump करने से पहले मुझे check करने दो कि बर्फ है वो तगड़ी है या मैं जंप करूँगा मैं ही चला गया तो instead of Siachen we will be doing rescue and rescue में फिर radio set खुल जाएंगे. Everybody will be talking ये लाओ वो लाओ, Pakistani will come to know. So क्या करो? Like I'm sitting over here, नीचे जगह है ना खाली, तो हेलीकॉप्टर में भी ऐसी जगह नीचे खाली होती है. तो एक आटे की बोरी थी छोटी, क्योंकि हम लोग सेल्फ कंटेन, मैंने कहा मैं वो आटे की बोरी नीचे फेंकता हूँ और देखता हूँ कि वो जो that you know that what do you call that level, is it tough, hard, snow, ice, what is it? And if it is hard, I'll jump. If it is soft, then I'll have to think, because then we look for some other place. They said okay, the बोरी वैसी ऊपर ही थी. So I saw, I said no, it's perfect. No, I can jump. So I jumped. The moment I jumped, the other chap was sitting next to me was with a radio set. So he was on his lap. So he can't take that radio set and jump. So he said, so the pilot looked at me, I said, no problem. You can land, there is no crevice, you can land over there. I had gone there in 83, so generally I knew the area. But then 83 and 84, there's a lot of difference. And we were dropped short. So by the time the second helicopter, the third helicopter. In about 11:30, the weather turned bad. It turned so bad that we couldn't see anything. And for 3 days it was bad, and now we had one boy over there. Now because he died, we had to open the radio set on the Thursday. Because he was छोटे तंबू हैं, and एक तंबू में 2 रहते हैं. They call top tents. So top tents में 2 रहने हैं. So we said now इसको अंदर रखेंगे तो अंदर वाले कहाँ जाएंगे? So we said let's open the radio set and tell ground को कि Ramesh is no more. Please send a helicopter. The helicopter आएगा कैसे? Because the weather is bad. So the moment the weather cleared, the helicopter came to take Ramesh. Meanwhile, we went down to Belapatla because we were dropped short of Belapatla. You won't believe, the moment these radio sets and all this evacuation here was started, Pakistan is caught on. यहाँ पे कुछ हरकत हो रही है. Somebody has already entered the glacier and they were waiting down to it. From their side, coming on the Siachen glacier on the Saltoro ridge line was 1 day. 1 day. They could just start in the morning and be on top. For us, it took us 7 days. So we had to go like this and camps, shut down, very difficult. So to avoid those 7-6 days, we went by helicopters. कि भाई खड़ा पकड़ लेंगे 2 घंटे के अंदर. So ये हो गया. When we went and I reached Belafondla, I see a Pakistani chopper coming right in front of me. Now I'm already at 18,000 feet. When I'm at 18,000 feet, the helicopter can't go very high also. So I'm seeing the pilot and the pilot is seeing me. The pilot of their saw, my God, there are 4-5 people already on top of this helicopter. They will fall down. And then he took a U-turn and went back. So Pakistanis came to know that they were already from